What's going on, everybody, and welcome down to Crypto Art Week Asia. This panel is about hip hop on chain, and I'll be your host slash moderator, Vandal from DAORecords. And I want to introduce our guests all the way from Paris. We have Mighty 33, and in Singapore, by way of Kuala Lumpur's Mayja 1, and down in the FL, Rare Skrilla. What's up, everybody? How you doing?
What's up, Vandal? What's up, everybody?
Yeah, I'm so happy to have such an awesome panel of amazing individuals who have each contributed in so many different ways to this beautiful space that we call blockchain, crypto, NFTs, crypto art, and all that goodness. Community building has been in full effect, producing and releasing NFTs, and just in general, bringing the ecosystem and onboarding friends and family and the wider community. So we're going to kick things off with just, like a casual conversation and talk about hip hop on chain and the impact that hip hop has had in technological innovations from past to present, and looking at how artists can really benefit from utilizing this Web3 technology. So first, I guess I'll let our panel introduce themselves. We'll start with ladies first with Mayja 1. So feel free to take as much time as you need to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Vandal. What's going on? My name is Mayja 1, aka the Far East Empress. I'm an MC first and foremost, a creative consultant. And I also run a jerk sauce company here in Southeast Asia called Suka Suka Sauce. And I have been in the music business for over a decade now. I've got to work with all of my hip hop heroes, from RZA to Talib Kweli to Pharrell Williams, and worked in the LA scene for a little while. Jamaica, because I was working out of Bob Marley's Tough Gong Studios, and now relocated back to the place of my birth, Singapore, but currently in Kuala Lumpur, to really discover the music and the sounds that are out here and be inspired and kind of bring this worldwide cultural sound back to my roots. So I think that's it in a nutshell.
Beautiful, thank you, Mayja. And next up, let's go to Rare Skrilla.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I've been messing around with Bitcoin for about 7 or 8 years, and then I got into tokenizing art and music in 2016, and I have just gone down that rabbit hole. I used to host a podcast called Art on the Blockchain for a couple years, from 2017 to 19. I've created quite a few pieces, many different blockchains. I did the DJ Pepe token, and I did recently async programmable music piece along with Mighty Mai. He did one as well. And then aside from that, traditional music, I just released an album with Rome Streets and Uncle John, Genesis 127 that's out, playing everywhere now. I've been in music production and DJ space for about 20 years. Worked a lot on my heroes as well. And just doing that. It's we just got back from Bitcoin Miami conference, and it was crazy down there. The music, we actually did a music NFT joint down there with DJ Premier and Animus, and it's hot. Like this whole everybody on this panel has been saying it. Like we know it's gonna come, so we're waiting for it.
Beautiful. And Mighty 33.
Yeah, so I come from Paris, and I've always been into music. I had the luck to navigate the music industry through lucky hazards of producing music that worked well, and then got me today still able to continue this music journey. And I always try to find a way out of the bad aspects I've seen from this industry, trying to resolve things, and the blockchain come into my landscape in 2017, 2018. Yeah, so I went all into the blockchain to try to experiment what could be done, going along the experimentations and the evolution of it. And yeah, so I had the very luck and to at some point meet with the crypto art niche, starting with you, Vandal first, and Connie Digital as well. And then I learned from all of you, and now we kind of follow all of each other's work. And so that's the beauty of it. And we take the time to get to know each other and talk about our experimentations. And so, yeah, to conclude, in the background, we created a sort of incubator to help artists producing their music, but also, yeah, give some advice about how to do things differently, as we've done that since more than 10 years. And so that's how we ended up on this journey.
Great, thank you. It's so amazing to have all three of you on this panel, and I'm excited to just dive in. So, some of the topics. Well, we'll start off with the first topic that I wanted to explore is, hip hop's history of technological innovation and using the various tools from the beginning, the late '70s, moving into the '80s and '90s with samplers and especially the DJ culture as well. So maybe we can just dive in right there and look at from each of your own perspectives what type of equipment, what type of technology have you felt that hip hop has innovated, and we can maybe discuss a bit around that before moving into sort of the cultural aspect and the internet age. So this is like maybe pre-internet age moving forward, and how artists have I guess been inspired from these technological innovations from hip hop. So whoever wants to jump in and first, maybe we can. Yeah, Skrilla.
I was gonna say, yeah, so hip hop, its roots and everything that you hear, like from EDM to everything. Like, I mean, that's current, that's current music. Like hip hop influenced that. Hip hop influenced all pop culture and stuff. So it kind of came from like disco, soul, and reggae, and R&B and stuff, and then it's kind of grown. And we've seen, every time hip hop makes an advancement, I mean, it spreads way beyond hip hop. You know what I mean? Like even like you look at rock music and country music, like rapping and like electronic, music instruments being used in it. Um, you know, that's it in a nutshell, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about on the DJ side, because I know that you also DJ, and some of the discoveries, let's say, from say Grandmaster Flash and his brother, and the scratch and queuing on the turntables, some of those evolutions and how that's advanced into DJ culture. Because if
Yeah.
it wasn't for these evolutions, we wouldn't really have DJ culture as we know it, right?
Right, there'd be like no DJ Marshmello and all these people. The DJ was the front and center for a long time, and then throughout the years, it kind of fell back a little bit. And MC became the face more, and then the DJ face came again, but more in the mainstream world. When it came back, and the EDM influence and the electronic music scene, basically house music, all that stuff, and then also you had like the DJ Khaled's and like the radio personalities. The DJ kind of brought it back, I think, over the last 10 or 15 years. But it's kind of like a ebb and flow, like and it started as like small, it's like the DJ kind of like was like that thing, that sound system, that's what brought everybody together and kind of put all the people in one place to like spread the ideas. And then you see like the same thing. It's like a microcosm, but then the macro came and kind of ate it, and that was like the EDM commercials, like car commercials with DJs and stuff like that. And I don't think like the DJ culture, it's separate now. Like a DJ and a DJ culture and like what it all is all different. There's all different parts of it. It's kind of like how the blockchain, there's like different tribes. Like the same thing with DJing. Like you could be a good DJ and not know how to even mix or scratch, honestly, as long as you have a good curation and sound selection. But then there's the DJ, you know, like turntablists, like, you know, then you got like mixtape DJs, you got blend DJs, you got then the different styles, genres, and mashups, and you know, and then it's all came from like, you know, that Cool Herc Grandmaster Flash and, you know, Theodore and everybody right there, and it just blew up. You know what I mean? And they're, you know, they don't get enough recognition, honestly, if you're talking about that. But you know, there's always got to be a spark. Like there's a spark. Like, the spark doesn't, you know, you don't do the news on the spark that happened. It's the fire that gets the news coverage. So.
Mayja, Mighty 33, you have anything to add to that?
I think from the MC perspective, I mean, I think hip hop is based on innovation and community. So for me as an MC, you can see the music kind of, I got into it from listening to a bootleg Public Enemy cassette tape. So, I mean, this cassette changed my entire world as a Singaporean, like 8-year-old Singaporean girl that stumbled on a bootleg cassette tape. And I mean, you see the music change from, you know, Herbie Hancock starting to bring in some digital sound system culture out of Jamaica, all the way to T-Pain, auto tunes and melodyne vocals. You see that technology really affects the trend and the sound as the music kind of goes along. I mean, I worked in some major labels where very big producers were getting, you know, like $100,000 beats, but they were producing them on their phones on phone apps, you know, and putting plugins on there. I was like, damn, that's how much you making on a phone beat. But I mean, when I was starting, we were just like vibing with a producer, a DJ on their MPC, or even the beatboxer in the corner just to cipher out an idea. And so for me, it was an interesting journey because, you know, I came from chopping my first or selling my first album on the corner, CDs, my first CDs on the corner that I like burned off my terrible computer and like drew the artwork and sold them on the corner in Toronto to, I mean, what we have today. So definitely technology has been a huge part of not only the sound, but also how we distribute, how we share, how we create, and how we interact with one another as artist and producer or artist and DJ throughout this timeline.
Mighty, as a producer, in terms of the evolution of the tools that you've used, and like myself, I started as a producer as well using analog gear like a Roland W30 and an Akai S2000, and these sort of you know, physical tools, and everything has gone pretty much to computers now. What are your thoughts about the evolution of that technology?
I mean, to me, I kind of always felt hip hop more of a mindset rather than musical codes in particular. And so throughout the years, you can clearly see the evolution of hip hop music in itself with new codes, with new generations. And it goes back to that story of, you know, the invention of guitar distortion, where, you know, some developers created a speaker and then some crazy guys come with a knife and put holes into the speakers. Oh, that sounds great. But it's always about disruption. And here the technology in combination with that mindset, I feel has always been very, one of the most sparkling of everything. Like it's catalyzing things from the street using these technologies, and technology is really at the center of the evolution of the music in itself. And you can clearly hear the different era by just listening to the music, so that you can refer, so, oh, it was an analog tool because it sounds like this or like that, and then retrace the chronological time frame just by listening to it. But the mindset is still there in every song, whatever the technology used and so on. So I'm always very curious to find the mindset, even though sometimes I liked it in combination with metal music, you know, hip hop and metal back in the early 2000, and with the funk and with the, you know, especially today, there's even more combination emerging from the street. And so the technology to me is really at the center of it, and I believe that's how trap music got so wide, because of the home studio mindset that kind of matured after the EDM scene kind of grew it, you know, and then the hip hop, the street just realized that it was so easy to make music that it created this massive wave of home studio music, like you said, Mayja, that you can make a beat and sell with your mobile phone, and then sell it to $100, $100,000, because that's the game, and and that if you play the perception game, these tools doesn't change. This perception game is just, yeah, always some smarter kids that know how to disrupt using an easier tool that makes the job that was hard to make before because of the limitations and so on. So they are always intricate, music and technology, but they are more especially hip hop as it's evolved more easily than other genre of music. I tend to see. So yeah.
Well, that's a good one, because you brought up, you know, the ability for people to create a lot easier now because of the technology available to them. Now, prior to, let's say, being able to record on a computer and do all your various like mixing and other recording elements on the computer, it was actually hard to access and expensive to access studios in the
Yeah.
past. And because of the technological advancements, we're now able to, well, people who didn't have access before now have access to that. And I think that that was a big game changer, especially when you're talking about communities who, like there was not a lot of money floating around, there's limited access to tools. And once, you know, computers came about and internet and MP3s, maybe we can, maybe you guys can share a bit of your story around how you use these tools when they came out, especially like let's say producing and recording on computers, as well as the internet, MP3s, and the delivery formats for sharing music.
Yeah, I mean, to conclude on just what I was saying, and in relation to that, I found it beautiful that what we are looking at, Web3 and this new ecosystem, will not only bring the home studio, you know, the thing that it's easy to make music. Now everyone will pretty much have a supply chain on top of that will be just as easy, like we saw on Web 2 with the Shopify's and all this attempt that everyone creates its own shop, but there was still some legal difficulties, or it wasn't as easy as what we witness today with using Web3. There's other sort of complexities, but it's still easy to use, and or easier to connect, you know, the wallets, the NFTs, and so it looks way more easier, and that's what I wish for the future as well. But yeah, you will be able to make music way more easily, but also access to a supply chain that will enable, you know, like having back in the days CDs, cassettes, limited editions, but that was as well not very accessible because it required a lot of investment and support from major labels. But it will be just very easy to access right now to have. So it will be very interesting times to witness when young artists just came and use both easy music and easy supply chain.
Mayja, Skrilla, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I've noticed, you know, is during like the blog era rap, let's say, a lot of music got uploaded to like Mediafile or Zip links or whatever these, I forget the sites, you know, the mega uploads and all that. And there's a lot of music lost because it's not in the distribution channels. It wasn't tangible releases. It was like on DatPiff and stuff like that. You know, a lot of those are kind of lost. Like, you know, having like this new Web3 where you can at least like have it exists somewhere, right? And then you can link it to some kind of like hash that's like, it's here at least. So this is what, or at the very least, like this is what it was, and this is some instructions to get it somehow, hopefully, I think that's kind of cool. And then as far as like like I used to work in studios and own a studio, and I saw like that wave of home musicians come about, and it definitely like disrupted the whole industry completely. Yeah, like even like the auto mixing, auto mastering sites that people use now and stuff. I mean, like you can, when I started, we were recording to ADAT, and it was a ton of money to do anything. Like I still use my MPC, like that's my main gear, but it's been my main gear for like 20 plus years. I got an SP404 and an MPC I still use, but I mean that you needed to have money to get that stuff. You needed, like, as a producer and a record, you had to find samples. Back in the day, it wasn't online. So you had to go to the record store and buy those records as well, which cost money. And if you want the good samples, like you might have to pay a little bit more money for like a drum break or something like that if you don't know how to get it. And it was very expensive to make music back in the day when I first started. Like, I mean, you had to have turntables, you had to have records, you had to have a CD burner, you had to have a 4-track mixing machine and stuff. Like you had to have, like, let's say, I think I was telling somebody this a little bit ago, I think you had to have at least like $4,000 to like start producing pretty much, like. And then like you had, like, at least for me and my friends, like then like you're like convergence, because then you have all the equipments, and then kind of like the ciphers start happening in your circle, and your circle just expanded, and however far you went with it. But that's how it all started. It was based around the DJ and the producer pretty much. You had to have beats. You don't need that anymore. Like an MC, like Beja was saying, you can make it on your phone and like it make dope stuff. So it's crazy how the anybody can enter now. It's good and bad, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like you can get a lot of crap out there, and it's like you got to weed through the stuff to find the gems. But then also it's open to anybody. There's no line. You just have to have a computer or a phone. So the bar's been lowered, I guess I should say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could add to that like I've made tunes now while sitting in Jakarta traffic, like you're not going anywhere. Break out the stuff and start making the tunes, and you could never do that before. And when it's more expensive to create music, it affects the performances because artists and MCs used to come to the studio with their verses like well memorized, like don't waste our money, don't waste our time. But now we could just like roll up with the cell phone and read the lyrics and like, nah, give me another take, give me another take. So the digitizing of that performance allows for an artist to like approach in a different way. Or a lot of time I've had to school a lot of artists that you have to come more prepared. But I think it was interesting what Mighty 33 said about the supply chain. I started selling my first record by telling people to send me cash in a card, like your grandmother used to send you money, that kind of thing. I'd be like, just send me cash, trust me, I'll send you a CD. And I sold, like, I think I sold about 2,000 CDs that way, which was great for the time. And then it transitioned for me into like a MySpace era where a lot of people heard me on MySpace. And it wasn't just a way of distributing, it was also a way for me to book my own tours. So I do like MySpace tours where I'd like crash on people's couches and like go to cities I've never been to before because they heard about me on MySpace, and just make that happen. And I think the next transition for me was discovering CD Baby. And then CD Baby was this like magical portal that would put my music on all the new streaming sites that were coming up. And I'd be like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to deal with that anymore. And yeah, that's kind of it. So it wasn't just distribution, it's also like being able to book your own tours, being able to connect with different people, and the way that you connect too, because connecting through a computer versus chatting to someone on the street because you're trying to like sell your CD or mixtape is very different.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about community from a hip hop perspective because of the importance of it, and sort of how that looks within the Web3 environment. Because we've seen pre-internet community studios gathering around, making the music, And then internet allows a bit more freedom for people to do the various elements themselves, and then the technology catches up. So now we have more sort of independence around our creations. And then we're moving now into this next stage of Web3. How important do you think it is from a hip hop perspective, using this technology, and how we can use this technology to create something different than what already exists?
Well, I mean, we've already seen it with the virtual world, like the glimpse of what is to come, you know, like, I mean, everybody's probably heard about the Travis Scott Fortnite concert, and that opened a lot of eyes that basically is, you can be at your house, put together a great like virtual production and make money to not just a city, but, or a region even, like you can do a worldwide concert at once and still give fans an experience. And, you know, I think people are going to obviously build on that. You know, your record label, Vandal, Mighty's record store, and the crypto voxels, like these are all things that, you know, are coming. You know, the wearables, I'm working with a rapper right now that for the next release, they're going to be dropping a wearable, and they're going to be doing a show that's, you know, in one of the virtual lands. I think that's going to be a norm. Like you're going to have to basically, that's touch on it. Just kind of like, I remember when like the blog era started, and like, you know, it was like 2003, 4, you know, like it was really early, like, and like for hip hop, like Nah Rights and stuff like that started coming around, and then the Two Dope Boys and all that stuff. And like, then you have the wave of everybody started to do it. And like, it's the same type of thing. It's like, you know, the people, you saw some artists get in early with like the blogs and the writers, and then they propelled themselves up through the ranks that way. And they would call like blog rappers, it's like SoundCloud rappers, like they had their way of doing it. And like, even the YouTube stuff, I remember early on a couple of rappers that got big that were buying YouTube views before like the whole shift in that paradigm. And it's just a way to get to the top of the, you know, for everybody to see it. And it kind of manifested itself and exploded from that. Once you got to the front page, you bought up the views and then got to there, and then boom. And of course, YouTube has knocked down that algorithm and all that. But, you know, it's all like beating the technology and being there before. And like, you know, I think that this medium of Web3, it's going to be a mainstay. I mean, there's so many reasons to use it, that even beyond hip hop. I mean, obviously, it's going to happen. So hip hop will definitely be involved, and it's going to advance the thing. I mean, like I just said, the Travis culture thing, that's hip hop, that's advancement. Like, you know, things like that happening. It's going to be like the paradigm shift.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Mighty, like, what do you think some of the benefits are for people to get involved in this ecosystem, specifically like around NFTs and releasing music on the blockchain through the various things? Because, you know, your album, you know, you had it. Maybe you can talk about your album and why you did it, and what some of the benefits are for others to follow your footsteps and to really kind of tune into what's happening in this space.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting aspects, as it can resolve many things. It cannot solve everything because new solutions, new problems. So I expect that we will see a lot of experimentation and troubles, especially until we reach some sort of standard ecosystem. Right now it's kind of the Wild West, and so I cannot really suggest anyone to follow my path. I can highlight things that worked and things that may have not worked. But so I released an album back in October 2020, and the idea was to first experiment this album release just using 100% blockchain tools. So whatever aspects of the blockchain tools was about, I wanted to exploit it to the fullest to see how far I could go just doing that. And so I covered the streaming, then the NFT, then the virtual worlds, and I didn't got into social tokens because I'm still kind of afraid of that yet. But I think it's anyone has to be comfortable or not about things, and this is not something where I feel comfortable personally yet. But so the streaming, there exists today some streaming platforms that are based on the blockchain, and that has some try different models, but basically it's the idea that you play the music and you get paid instantly for the amount that you just the person just played. That's the basic philosophy of how streaming would work, kind of in like in the real world with Spotify and everything. But the idea is to improve that in terms of finances, in terms of tracking, in terms of royalties and everything. So then there's the NFT aspect where it covers the legal issues, where it can bring provenance, authenticity, certification, and everything, which kind of solves the performing rights organization existence and kind of makes it obsolete. But as well, there's the selling aspect where you can control your supply chain and create different sort of mechanism. And it's so interesting that it's not just limited to that, but you can pretty much create infinite ways of making them all work together. Like you, Vandal, have this idea of NFTs being sales. That's I kind of see it as well. And then the virtual worlds where I truly see it as the continuation of the Twitch and everything. Instead of putting your live on Twitch, you will put it into this room where everyone can interact without being there, but still can have this feeling of interacting all together around an event and so on. So it's all, and you can connect all these three worlds, streaming, NFT, the legal aspect, the virtual worlds, and yeah, it's kind of create your own ecosystem, make you able to control and have a hand on pretty much everything. You can play with that. And so it worked very well. I just expected for this experimentation to release 100% using blockchain tool to just work. But since I did that, my life changed pretty much, and everything, there was such a great energy coming out of a community that yeah, just allowed the universe to bring me stuff that I wouldn't have ever expected, and just accept it, because I think that's what we're looking at as artists, to enter a new dimension and not being locked into a prison which is the analogy for the old major label kind of working. So you cannot expect where to go when you do things right in the blockchain, because yeah, it's kind of the opposite. You expect yourself to free yourself doing that, and then by freeing yourself, you don't know what's on the other side of doing so. So it's just, to me, it was just greatness, having no expectation and just trying to prove the concept. And today it feels hard to innovate because a lot of things happen since. But I think sticking to the fundamentals, things that works, the certification and NFTs, and then on top of that, trying to build things around that can be new, interesting things to explore. But I definitely had some feedbacks of a lot of artists telling me that it inspired them, and they saw what was interesting in it and things to follow on. And so I try to, yeah, do my best to continue this way.
I had a conversation the other day with an MC who had just stepped into this space about 2 months ago, and he had told me that he was and I know Skrilla, you know who I'm talking about, uh, Kane, right? And he was telling me how inspired he was about being in this space, and that he was like writing a lot more than he used to, and just wanting to do more creative stuff. And I know Mayja, she's relatively new also to the NFT space. So I want to kind of get your experience as an artist releasing music on the blockchain, as well as what you think the benefits are for other artists to come in and try this technology and get their feet wet with it.
Yeah, I think I definitely represent someone that's new to the space, an artist that was intimidated by the space, kind of like the barrier of entry is like, I don't really understand. What should I do? And I thought it was very like beneficial that we teamed up. I said, okay, let me just try this, because I know I've been going to years of music conferences, and when the streaming sites, the Spotify's, the all the different platforms first began popping up and sharing their business model at these music conferences, as somebody who's fiercely independent, I used to think like, nah, that doesn't make sense. Like, how come you guys get to determine what percentage I am of the pie? Like, you didn't invest in the recording or the creation of this, but everything's kind of predetermined. And I realized how difficult it would be to make an income, just purely streaming, depending on streams and fighting for those numbers to kind of go up and that type of thing. So when we teamed up, I think the pandemic kind of first hit, and I said, okay, I'm gonna release this record called Freedom Fades. And already with the record, I was getting people from all around the world to just send me clips of their voices to share, you know, what it was like where they're at, from Brazil to South Africa to where I'm at in Southeast Asia. And I said, well, how cool would it be that for a record that reflects these things in all these languages and all these cultures, that if there's a launch party in the virtual space, that all these people from all these walks of life could be there. So my experience was definitely, the learning curve is really fast when you start seeing the success. So I would tell people entering the space not to be afraid. It's just, you know, ain't nothing to do it, ain't nothing to it but to do it, right? So it helped to really partner with DAORecords, because it's good to trust a partner that is more knowledgeable in the space. And the first thing was the launch in Crypto Voxels really amazed me. I mean, we see a lot of live streams and live stream performances happening, some curated and not really live, like pre-recorded and lip synced, and especially here in Asia, and some that are just like some person like, I'm on IG Live and I'm gonna rap for you right now, you know, like really casual things. And I thought that would be the closest an audience could feel to an artist, because they're watching someone perform live on video. And somehow in Crypto Voxels, when we were there in that space for a record release, and there was a virtual version of my record label, Nusantara Records, in the Crypto Voxel space, and it was in the Bronx, but you know, and there were people that were, you know, styling their avatars in different ways. It was amazing to me that that felt more like a personal and interactive space than watching someone on IG Live performing a, you know, a rap. So I was amazed at like, how is this avatar interaction feeling more tangible, more real, more interactive? The other thing that really struck me was, I'm used to the traditional space where, you know, you're on Instagram and hopefully you got a lot of likes for a song that you posted, and like, girl, that's hot. And that's the comments you kind of get. But in the crypto space, the comments were so much more informed. They really took the time to find out my history. Like, oh, we saw that you were born in Singapore, but you were creating in Jamaica. Like, what a crazy path. Can you share with me how you felt about this? People asking me about my lyrics and what I meant by the poetry of something. I was like, dang, this is an artist's dream. Like, an artist's dream is just to be understood, to connect, to share intentions and see if someone else shares that story and took a different path. And here I was having conversations with people that went beyond girl, that's hot, you know? So I was loving those interactions, and that was very inspiring for me as well. And then when I was selling my first NFTs, I was like, what? It's sold? And I I think that was also inspiration, not about a monetary thing. Of course, that's very nice, especially in this like COVID environment where you're limited for live performances and certain outreaches. Um, but just the feeling that someone purchased that because they found value in what you were doing and how you put it together. And I've always been someone that loves merchandise. I mean, I'm that kid that collected all those Source magazines and collected any like paraphernalia and stuff like that, and went through the era where, you know, we were going to music conferences and they're like merchandise, 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 you know. And now exploring this space to know that you can create merchandise. Hold on. From Freedom Fades, I made this like mask, right? And the mask actually had a Spotify code on it, so you could like scan the mask, put on the, you know, pandemic soundtrack, and walk around the town with your Mayja One Freedom Fades mask. But now I'm looking at it saying, why did I make it a streaming platforms code? Why didn't I go further and explore that crypto space and see like that scan? Where could it bring you? It could bring you to my record store. It could bring you to an experience, a video. It could bring you to merchandise that unlocks as you go through the journey with me. The possibilities are so much deeper. So now merchandise has become, I don't want to see three-dimensional, but it becomes part of the story. And I've always been someone that believes, especially for independent artists, that the hustle is part of the art. You know, I never separated like, marketing and promoting and stuff like that. No, like everything is part of the art, you know, how you express yourself, how you express the music and how you get it out there. And now this space affords hustle to really become part of the art, or for someone to have a piece of merchandise and really unlock that journey as you go along and you figure it out. As Mighty 33 said, like when you have that freedom, not knowing what's on the other side, but unlocking that and just going for it.
That's amazing. Very inspirational. I want to get like a veteran's perspective. Skrilla, maybe you can share what you feel are the benefits for people to come into this space and utilize the technologies.
There's a number of reasons. I mean, at the very basic, just the proof of, chain of custody and proof of provenance that you can afford. Like I've been experimenting for the past year with proof of purchase NFTs, where it's, you buy an NFT and if you pre-order it on Bandcamp, then you just get the NFT for free. And that kind of like onboards people who wouldn't be in this space, you know what I mean? And I think it gets them accustomed to what NFTs can be, and like kind of like proof that like you were supportive, especially as a younger person. I think if I was 13 or 14 on a computer, I would be like, trying to collect all my NFT proof, and then like rubbing it in my friend's face, like, nah, you weren't listening to this shit, nah, you lie, you heard all that, you get all your music taste from me. And like there's been people, like I remember I used to listen to like a lot of Necro back in the day, and like then my friend got it onto Necro, and he was into Necro so much that I like stopped listening to Necro and stuff. And it's like those type of like battles you have with your friends about like fandom shit and stuff, and it just adds like a whole new dimension to it, I think. It's like that's one thing. And then like I've been talking to a lot of artists that have had success in the real world, and when they come in and they really get their hands dirty, like for instance, like let's say like Ill Bill's been releasing a lot of stuff. He was with La Coca Nostra and Nonfiction and everything. Has a very successful career as an underground hip hop guy, and he's like the creativity that's sparked is like, he's like saying the same type of stuff that we say. Like it's like just like the creativity that you can come up with in this space, like kind of keeps you here. If you're a creative person, like there's no shortage of finding new ways to like build with your fans in a decentralized way. Like I look at it a lot like money, like how Bitcoin is to money, like this is to like our art. Like it's a way for like collector to creator to bridge, a more like concrete, solid relationship. I think it helps, like, you see like the sneaker culture and all that stuff that kind of came up, and that was obviously through hip hop. And like it's the same thing with NFTs now. You're gonna get these you see it with the crypto punks and stuff. It's like these like, there's different like tiers. Like you have like the whales who want to have like those like Gucci bags, aka the crypto punks or the rare pepes or something, and then you have like the more middle ground where artists are hustling more maybe for like a half. I don't know the exact price ones. Let's say like a half an ETH to an ETH, and they got different ways that they do that and express that. And you got like the more like ways you can come in and just like do a lot of like cheaper releases and kind of like fun stuff. I know Vandal, you did a real fun experiment with your music recently. There's just so many creative ways, like things to do in here. It's like there's really no shortage, and it's almost debilitating because there's so many things. It's like you got to focus on only like a couple of them, because it's like you can really find yourself like all over the place. Like, oh shit, I'm on like 7 different chains, and I got NFT releases coming all over, and I gotta go into this Discord and this crypto voxels and put on my Oculus, and then go plug in my turntables and go onto the Photoshop and make this GIF and then compress it into MP4 and upload it and make it a drop. It's like there's so much crap, and you gotta tell everybody about it. And then and then you gotta of course be present on social media, and it's just a lot. But that that's the fun of it, is like as an independent artist and a creative, like you're able to control all of those elements, and like you still like you're not like getting rid of a team, and like there's still opportunity for middlemen, to be honest with you, but you're cutting out more of the fat of that stuff that you don't need, like the playlist stuff, like the Spotify stuff, and that's no good for us. You know what I mean? Like it's good to get out there and all that stuff, but like the way that it's broken down, it's past the point of like broken. You know, I don't even know. I don't know. Maybe I'm different, but I don't know anybody that listens to Spotify. I never really have known people that listen to Spotify. Like maybe some people do, but like I never hear like
It's
somebody
huge
say,
in
"Yo,
Asia.
okay."
For
See,
Asia, I think it's the go-to kind of thing. And
yeah,
what's
Yeah, it's
interesting is
influence.
that in Asia they feel like most fans feel like they're supporting the artist by saying, "What's your Spotify?" because they want to support the
Hmm.
artist. So they
Same.
that's a go-to.
yeah. I
What's
noticed
your
now that
NFT?
Spotify has added tipping on theirs, so that's interesting though.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up. I really appreciate all of the information that each of you have shared, your personal experience as well. Maybe you know one word of advice, like a single word or like a short piece of advice that you can give anybody watching this or listening to it who are wanting to come into the space. What would your advice be? Let's start with Mighty.
I would say try it before buy it. I mean, maybe it's not for everyone, and some artists may not, click with it. Like some artists are bad with social medias. Like it's not maybe for everyone. But once you beat into it and understand all the extent of what it changes from what we know today, it's a no-brainer. There's no coming back, and stay vigilant about what you see, because that's the digital world, and you have to be careful because it's money and it's your money. But yeah, I would encourage artists to experiment with it ASAP, whether it's on the streaming or NFT or the virtual world. That's the three main things where I would feel safe to go to today and try to understand what it's about.
Skrilla?
Yeah, don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to put your nerd hat on, and don't be afraid to just be, you have to ask questions, and be exploratory, and I think, yeah, that's it.
Mayja?
I think if you're uncertain, then you can look for someone to collaborate. Collaboration is a beautiful part of the space, and we're happy that we collaborated with DAORecords on this. And I think, if you're an artist that has the imagination of an 8-year-old kid just having fun, then let your imagination go crazy and explore the space, not being scared of the barriers to entry, but through the lens of imagination of what could be. And merdeka atau mati, independence or death.
Thank
And
you.
tokenize.
Amazing. Thank you so much for a wonderful panel. Major One, Rare, Skrilla, Mighty 33. This has been Hip Hop on Chain. Your host, Vandal, right here. I want to thank you, everybody. Enjoy Crypto Art Week Asia. Big shout out to the whole team, Radar Boy 3000, and everybody out in Singapore and all over the planet celebrating this. One love and peace out.